In today's episode, we are tackling the big question: how can small law firms outrank the big players? We'll be discussing leveraging local SEO, creating high quality content, and building a strong online presence. Whether you're a small firm looking to compete or simply wanting to enhance your digital strategy, this episode has you covered. I'm Damien Reed, Head of Marketing at Quality Solicitors.
And I'm Scott Younger, Marketing Account Manager at Quality Solicitors.
So the episode for today, Scott, is how small law firms can outrank the big players. It's a multifaceted issue, I suppose. And what we mean by that, essentially, we'll go into the individual aspects of the problem, but the main problem being that firms that are either small in size or firms that are just starting out will probably most likely not outrank the more established firms on search results like Google and Bing.
It's also, I think, important to think about scope as well. Because like I say, you might be a big firm, but you're very local focused. You're very sort of established in your local area. So obviously, while you might be a relatively big firm within your sort of local or regional area, you're not necessarily competing with massive national law firms. So I think it's thinking about small, not just in terms of sort of size, in terms of sort of headcount of your business, but also in terms of what is your scope. Are you a sort of a local firm? Are you a regional firm? Or a national firm? And I think it's thinking about size in that sense as well. And when we're talking about sort of Google searches, which I think is the sort of the focus of our discussion today, it's thinking about how you can sort of narrow down those Google searches so you are more targeted to the area that your clients are and the sort of people you want to discover your business.
Absolutely. And so one of the main things what we'll be discussing today is having a focused approach on whether it be a service that you are more likely to be able to get out there in front of your local communities, or even some kind of niche, some kind of unique USP or unique selling point that your firm might have that's different to everybody else. And these are the things that you should be focusing on to try and help you outrank these other more established or bigger firms. And that's what we're going to be discussing today, how you're going to be able to do that. So the first thing that you should be looking at when you are trying to address this big problem is website housekeeping. Scott, how would somebody go about that, and what things do they need to be focusing on?
I think if you're looking at sort of basics for a website, it's the sort of you want to focus on the things that most sort of visitors to your website will take for granted. So making sure that there's a quick loading speed. You want to make sure that you're able to get onto the website within a few seconds rather than waiting minutes for particular sites, particular pages on your site to load. Just making sure that it's easy to navigate around your website as well, especially when a client, for instance, is looking through a few different law firms. They're sort of thinking about a particular area of law that they've got a problem. So they want some advice on a divorce. They want to be able to get from your homepage to your divorce page and to other sort of service pages quite quickly.
Yes,
and it will sort of reflect badly on your firm from their perspective if they're sort of hanging around waiting for pages to load. And to be honest, most of the time, if they're waiting for a page to load, they'll probably give up and look elsewhere. So I think it's making sure that the basics are really strong in terms of user experience and loading speed. Also, I think these days as well, people are searching on Google more and more often on their mobile phones. Like I say, smartphones are obviously as powerful as laptops these days when it comes to the internet. I think sometimes, depending on your smartphone. So I think it's making sure that your website is geared up for that and it is responsive to mobile devices. It's making sure that it sort of looks similar on both a desktop or laptop or tablet, and then also mobile. You don't want necessarily someone to go on with their laptop one day and then search your firm on their mobile the next day, and for them to see two completely different websites, and that the
Yeah.
mobile version of the website is completely mangled, and you can't really, and there's pages and there's bits of page everywhere. So I think it's making sure that you've got those basics right in terms of website housekeeping first of all, and then just I think you can build from there. But I think the foundations of a proper functioning website are always crucial.
Yes, yeah, you're right. The user experience needs to be great. It needs to be good. That functionality needs to be there. You need to make sure that there aren't problems with your site. There's no broken links, for instance. You know, one of the worst things to happen if you go onto a website is that you click on a button or a link to something that you want to read and it doesn't work, or it takes you to an outdated page, or a page that's got an error on it, or something like that. So you need to make sure that these things aren't there, or if they are, they're not consistent across your site. With regard to the user experience, and this is a sort of an important thing that you need to bear in mind, that Google, when it looks at your site, it kind of looks at it from a user perspective. They aren't individuals at Google that are going on your website and giving you you see if your website works, but their bots, their algorithm, it looks at your website like a user would, and if you can't navigate properly, if the links are broken, then it's not going to recommend your website, and thus you are not going to increase your ranking as other aspects of your website improve, because the fundamentals, as you rightly said earlier, the fundamentals need to be sorted out, need to be done right.
If you're thinking in terms of analogy, I think it's like, yeah, you wouldn't want to buy a house that's built on dodgy foundations. It's sort of similar, I guess, really, when people are navigating onto a website or making purchasing decisions when it comes to businesses. It's okay.
Yeah.
Is this the sort of business I want to, or law firm that I want to sort of to build a relationship with? And if the website's taking too long to load, or is broken in other ways. Or even, I think it's an important thing about content in terms of user experience as well, making sure that the information on your site isn't all out of date. It isn't showing the awards that you won in 2010, for instance.
Yeah. No one cares.
It's relevant to today as well, but and not too old fashioned in terms of how it looks as well. And it sort of kind of represents your firm in the best way possible.
Yeah, and that includes things like, don't have stock photos on your website. Have photos of your team. Have photos of your office. You know, people actually work there, rather than going on to, one of the many online libraries and just downloading random photos of people in call centers or dressed up in suits. Actually, use your business, the people that are working there as, to get photos on your site, and it just makes everything more real. I am going to drop a Damien's opinion bomb when it comes to websites. Don't try and be clever with the navigation of a website. If on a typical website, the menu should be at the top, and it should be words. It shouldn't be funny icons. It shouldn't be down the side. You, as a user, you want to be able to go onto a website and just know how to navigate it, and not have to think, how do I navigate this website? You just know by going on any website and seeing that they're all set out typically in the same kind of way.
I think it's simplicity being the key, and making sure that it's the sort of muscle memory you've got when you go on a website. You sort of should know roughly where the homepage is and how to navigate to those places. If your website completely throws out the rule book in terms of where things are, it's going to sort of get confused and potentially even scare away clients who are coming on, who are sort of thinking, well, this is a bit too confusing. I'm not sure where to go. I'm a bit lost.
Yeah.
And then they'll sort of bounce off your website. So I think it's making sure it's just pretty straightforward in terms of common sense, but just making sure that it's easily navigable and that everything works on your website.
Yeah, just think how frustrated you are when you go into your local supermarket and you go buy, a tin of tomato soup, and you go to the aisle where your tin of tomato soup is, and it always has been, and it's not there anymore. The supermarket have moved it. It's really frustrating. Now, there's a reason why the supermarkets do that, but from your perspective, it's frustrating. So don't be funny with your website. Right. So, Scott, the website. it's sorted.
Mhm.
Whoever's listening to this may have already gone, yeah, my site's fine actually. No, I'm all good. But how do we get our firm ranking better than other firms in the area or more established firms? What's the next step?
I think it's all. I think if you're thinking from the perspective of a sort of a smaller firm, or sort of not one of the sort of big national behemoths when it comes to law, I think it's probably sort of the adage, picking your battles might be a good way to think about this. I think it's defining what is your niche, what are the sort of core areas of your firm's expertise, and sort of really sort of going after that niche and sort of talking about that and trying to rank highly in that area rather than trying to compete in every single type of law, for instance. So if let's say if your team specializes in family law, for instance, or that's the majority of your business, that could be a great place to start. It's also probably focusing on your local expertise as well, and sort of thinking about, okay, in terms of say will writing, we're probably the primary will writer within our town or city, or maybe even the region. So it's, I think, rather than trying to compete in all areas of law, it's either localizing it or sort of defining your niche. What are the core services that you offer?
Yeah.
Because I think it's much more cost effective to be more targeted when it comes to sort of SEO and trying to get your search engine results as best as possible. You want to make sure you're ranking highly for those sort of key areas of your business, rather than trying to compete in every single law type, and you essentially end up spreading your resources quite thin. And obviously, it's very difficult to compete, particularly in the more competitive keywords.
Absolutely, yeah. Another law firm or competing law firm has been around for a lot longer, most likely going to have more pages on their website. They might be a bigger firm. They might have more budget to be able to spend a little more resources to be able to get their site in front of people in your area. So yeah, find that's something special about your firm. Whether it, like Scott said, whether it's the niche, whether it's a local service, whether it's a service, whether it's your USP, whatever it is, whatever makes you stand out individually or what you want to be known as locally, that's the service that you should be pushing. I'm not suggesting you don't have the other services as services that you provide to your clients, but be known locally, for instance, as, Cambridge's family solicitors or something like that. Just be, just have that focus approach, and it will help you with everything else that you need to do when it comes to content, when it comes to all the other things that we'll be talking about during this podcast. Just having that focused approach helps you in the long run. Right. So yes, we've got our niche, we've got our USP, we've got our service level, service type, and you need to basically now have your site being able to be found, aligning to whatever your message is. So you need to be looking at keywords. Typically, there are two types of keywords: there's short tail and long tail keywords. Short tail keywords are words that are associated with the service that you are trying to get in front of people who are searching for it. So, for instance, a couple of examples of a short tail keyword could be the word divorce, could be the word probate, and these are the short words that you would have on a web page or in a piece of content. And then you have long tail keywords, and these are a number of words put together that would normally be aligned with someone's search terms.
So more specific.
Or sentiment. Yes. So an example could be divorce solicitor or divorce law firm in Cambridge, for example. So you need to look at those types of keywords, and there are many websites out there that are available that you can go and find keywords. There is Google Keyword Planner. and there's another website called Uber Suggest. Both are great for being able to find keywords that are associated with the type of service that you want to promote. And Scott, I mean, keywords are there, but what do you do with those keywords once you've established?
I think it's obviously targeting those. Obviously, we talked about specialism before. I think it's making sure you've got the sort of the keywords focusing on that specialism. So, like, say that you're in Cornwall and you specialize in family law, for instance, it'd be like family law solicitors in Cornwall, or the particular town you're in Cornwall. If you want to even specialize it even further, might be a good way to go. I think it's also sort of backing up those sort of keywords with sort of more organic SEO. So basically building sort of content on your website, and sort of guides and resources can be a great way to do that. So you could be creating blogs where you're talking about those particular topics. So in terms of family law, you could write a divorce or a divorce guide or something that sort of demystifies that. You can have some FAQs.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing I found sort of coming into the law sector. I think it's always very helpful to create the sort of because essentially every law firm, pretty much all your staff are experts in their particular area. Like I say, for many, obviously they've got qualifications and they're qualified. So you've got access to specialists in those areas. So people can talk and write about these particular areas and help, I think, break down some of the perceptions that people, sort of members of the public, might have about the law sector and particular things. So in terms of helping people understand what is the process in terms of sort of of a divorce, what is the process in terms of writing a will, what's important to think about when you're going about writing a will, and then in sort of the steps of the conveyancing process, for instance. There's a whole range of issues you could be talking about in these sort of guides. And it's just thinking about, okay, you specialized your topic. What are the things people might want to know? Might be a great way to start off in terms of creating content. And also, I mentioned sort of staff and having sort of your specialists within your teams. It's also a helpful thing to build up the profile of those staff members. So, for instance, if you've got a head of department in a particular type of law, it's always a good idea to put their name to certain bits of content. Just so when people are potential new clients are navigating the website and they'll see an article from that member of staff, and they can sort of, it helps them understand or helps them learn, or they'll be essentially be able to see that that in your firm your staff know what you're talking about, and they can sort of build a relationship already and know that they're in safe hands in terms of coming to you guys for law advice. So I think it's building client rapport from the get-go, really. And also, because that's what all this is really, in terms of when you are going about trying to rank highly on Google, you're helping people discover you, but then it's also, what is that next step? What sort of content are they navigating to after that? So I think that's kind of where my opinions are, at least on sort of keywords and content creation.
I think your opinions are right on the money. So the content needs to be high quality content, as you said, because if you don't, if the content isn't any good, then people aren't probably going to stay on your website. And as Scott's already sort of alluded to, by having people in your firm creating that content, they become an authoritative voice on that type of, that subject matter. So it's really, really important that you have that content going out there, and you need to have a content strategy as well, because there's no point just spending a couple of months getting loads of content onto your website and then not doing anything for 6 months. Google loves regular content, or your site being updated on a regular basis. So have some kind of content strategy, whether it's landing one piece of content a week, which I think is completely doable for most size law firms. And that piece of content, as you said, could be addressing frequently asked questions, answering or discussing terminology on the subjects. It could be a guide. with a downloadable piece of content maybe afterwards. And all of this is helping with your potential client trusting you as a firm and hopefully ultimately becoming one of your clients. So we have got content, or a plan of content anyway. We've got a site that works well. We know the types of keywords that are associated with a service that people will be looking for. So we have a plan in place. But is there anything above and beyond the website that could help a firm be discovered with their niche or in their local area?
I think it's always really important to think about sort of alongside Google search is also sort of Google My Business pages as well. And I think Google My Business is inherently localized as well, because like I say, it shows up on Google Maps.
Yes.
Think about when you might be going either on holiday or just trying to find a restaurant locally, or if you don't, if a new restaurant popped up in your local area, you sort of, if you go on Google Maps, you'll be able to see sort of their Google profile. You'll be able to sort of see their ratings at a glance, see sort of what reviews they're getting as well. Something I always like to look at. I think increasingly, I think it's growing quite important, but also how that business responds to Google reviews as well. Are they, it's both positive and negative reviews? So in terms of, are they sort of engaged with their customers? Are they taking on feedback from negative reviews and putting that into practice as well? So there's lots of benefit in optimizing your Google My Business profile.
Yes. I've got a couple of stats to throw at you, Scott. In terms of Google My profile, Google My Business. The first stat being, on average, a potential client, a potential new client will research 3 firms before picking a firm. So they will go on to your website, maybe. They'll maybe go onto your social media, but most likely they will be going on to your Google My Business profile, looking at your out of 5-star rating. So it is hugely important to make sure that you have a bank of positive reviews on your site. And as Scott said, if you are having any low score reviews on there, that you are reply to them appropriately and professionally, and try and address the issue if it is possible, because it's impossible to please absolutely everybody. But it's what you do about it that can also be hugely beneficial as well. The other stat is almost 9 out of 10 people these days hold, in the same regard, online reviews versus personal recommendations. So recommendations from family members, friends, etc., which is quite telling.
Yeah, I think it's a generational thing as well. I think in the sort of new generation of people who are looking to access law services, sort of millennials and younger, we've grown up in a more online environment. We're looking to the internet to tell us what to do. I think in terms of Google, for instance, like say you're Googling things in terms of making purchase decisions, you're looking at the reviews people are getting online. It's sort of replaced. Well, I think there's always still a place for word of mouth, but essentially it's magnified by these things like Google My Business. So rather than sort of asking your mum or your friend, getting sort of advice from them, so what sort of that, we've had some problems with the toilet and the plumber who came was great. Whereas these days you can obviously get the opinions of your mums and your friends, but it's also you've got access to thousands, even tens of thousands of people through looking at Google reviews. Hundreds of people who've used that service, and increasingly people are using that to make purchasing decisions.
So just to get this sort of in your clear as a picture in your mind, when you search for, let's say, for instance, solicitors in Cambridge, you'll get 2 or 3 results right at the top, and then you'll get a box, and that box will be the Google My Business profiles, the ranks highest to lowest. You'll only see the top few, and then the rest of the search results page after that. So in order to be up there, you need to do a few things. You need to make sure that the information on there is correct, that you have a link to your website, that you, for instance, you need to claim it, that, you know, to make sure that
Very
is claimed.
basics, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That your telephone number is correct, the information on there, your opening times is all correct. Best thing I would suggest you do is go and look at if you're not ranking number one, look at the firms that are ranking high in your area, and look how they've set out their profile. And typically what they'll do is they'll have a little snippet, almost like a bio about them, and then there'll be a number of listed keywords, and these will be the services that they provide. And so you want to use that as inspiration to be able to go and then make sure that your profile is optimized. Once you have that optimized, then you need to have a robust review management plan in place. And what I mean by that, you need to be asking your clients how well you've done every single time, you know, and that could be done by a piece of paper in the as a handout at the end of the service. It could be a tablet in the office. It could be an online portal or review or an email or something like that. And there are things that you can do with those reviews. The negative, the low scoring reviews, this is a place where you can find out and adjust your own internal ways of managing, your processes, and make sure, you could identify any problems that you have internally. But the positive reviews, the 4 and a 5-star reviews, electronically, you could have it so that if they select 4 or 5, they get a little pop-up that says, thank you very much. It'd be really useful for us if you were to go to our Google My Business profile and leave the same review. Or you follow up with another email and say, thanks for your positive review. It'd be great if you could help us out by leaving a positive review on Google My Business. And that will help increase the score out of 5 on your Google My Business profile, but also give you that extra, what's the word? I've just made up a word, robustness.
Mm-hmm. Great word. Good word.
So, it's pointless having a 5-star review if you've only got 5 people that have reviewed your site. The first time you get a 1-star review, your score will plummet. So get that extra resilience. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
resilience to your score by having plenty of high scoring reviews on your Google My Business profile.
And it's also thinking about, obviously it's always helpful to have good reviews on the Google My Business page. It's also thinking about how you can use those in some of the other areas we talked about in terms of your website. For instance, if you've got lots of 5-star testimonials, obviously make sure you speak to your clients and get sort of permission, but you could use some of those quotes in a case study. You can sort of put the 5-star testimonial on your website. You can there's lots of ways you can use the really valid and positive things that your clients are saying to help your efforts in terms of improving your website, helping you rank highly in the areas that you're focusing on. For instance, if you're focusing on wills and probate, for instance, if you've got a client that's giving you great feedback on that could be a great thing to have on the landing page that you've got associated with that particular keyword. So there's lots of ways that you've got sort of cross-pollination that way. Let's say if you're collecting lots of reviews, you'll get more positive reviews, and then you can use that in areas of your website and improve your SEO. So all these things are interlinked. You've got so it's not it's not necessarily you do one thing and nothing else. It's
a one-trick pony.
Yeah,
that's what you're
right. That's a good way to talk about it. But yeah, it's making sure that all these areas do speak to each other and they're interlinked. And so it's always good to think about how your sort of digital presence works as a package.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I was just thinking about one trick pony and where that saying has actually come from.
Oh, no. Am I going to get a story now?
Normally do tricks, did it? Okay, so somebody at the firm has done a lot to get the Google My Business profile up and running. There's a review management in place. And there's a content strategy in place. The website's all working well. They need to promote it. And what's the best way, a firm can promote it? I mean, they could spend a huge amount of money on it, right? Couldn't they? But there are other things that they could do to also promote their service, their niche, their USP.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of tools at your disposal essentially when it comes to sort of making sure that you rank highly and making sure that you've got that you're improving your Google rankings. I think utilizing social media is a big one. Obviously, there's still quite a few law firms that don't even have social media platforms. So I think it's having regular content on social media. You can be reinforcing those sort of messages and reinforcing your specialism on social media by sort of posting relevant posts, linking back to your website as well, to make sure that you're that people who are interested, who look on your social media. Again, I'm sort of thinking about the next generation of people, but quite a lot of times, sort of millennials and Gen Z clients, they are looking at social media platforms, so it's good to have relevant content on there, and it will help sort of drive traffic to your website. Obviously, making sure your website has sort of content on there as well, and that you're driving your campaign back to your website. You can use email marketing as well, and also sort of in terms of obviously when your staff are emailing out to people, having little email banners that sort of are linking to service pages, because it might be that there's someone going through the conveyancing journey, and then if you've got an email banner that's sort of focusing on your will writing, it plants that seed in their head that they can think, oh, actually, I haven't thought about my will. So it's having some cross pollination there, and also using videos as well as kind of running targeted paid advertising campaigns. So pay-per-click, PPC campaigns are also a big part of it as well. But yeah, I think it's using all the tools at your disposal to help sort of run these campaigns.
Yes, it's you can't rely on just doing one thing. You can't rely on just having a paid advert campaign. You can't rely on just focusing on trying to get clients or returning clients through via an email campaign. You can't rely on just having organic content, hopefully getting in front of people who might be looking for a solicitor or someone that aligns with your service. So you need to be doing as much of that as you physically can, where the resources allow. And you need to have a plan, a strategy in place to do it. Don't just willy-nilly go out there and start saying, with spending money where you don't need to. Make sure it's optimized. Look for assistance with local marketing agencies. Contact us at GrowWithQS. We would absolutely help you. Just have a focused approach and be realistic as well on timeframes as well, because everything we've discussed here isn't a quick fix. It isn't something that can be done overnight. It does take time. A paid ad campaign can be a quicker win. But even then, to fully optimize a paid ad campaign, you need to run that for at least 90 days for the platform to be able to understand and you to be able to look at that data and try and make sure it's optimized at the best it can be to get in front of the right people. So, like I said, you can't just run a campaign for a few weeks and go, we haven't got anyone come in. You need to have that plan in place to be able to commitment to be able to run it for 90 days. And then everything else we've discussed takes time. It's not going to be an overnight success, like I just said. You're looking at at the minimum of being able to address all of this at the bare minimum of 6 months before you start to see tangible results and more people coming in and you appearing higher up in the search rankings.
I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. Essentially, you want to have a sort of long-term focus in terms of improving your Google rankings, because and also it's the fact that sort of Google is looking at your website regularly, but it wants to see in terms of the sort of the spiders and bots it's sending trawling through the site. It wants to see evidence of regular, consistent content as well. you could just put it, and therefore it's good to have that gradual improvement. That's what you want to see, is sort of addressing these things gradually and keeping it consistent, because rather than putting 100 blogs on the website all at once, which obviously would be very time consuming, but it's all one and done, and therefore it's sort of,
Yeah.
you want to just spread those. For instance, if you do that, if you do write 100 blogs, great, but do spread them over a period of time. So obviously Google can see you're putting stuff on there regularly, and making sure as well that those that you've got sort of keywords integrated in them as well. So there's a whole range of improvements you can make, but it's just having a long-term perspective and making sure that obviously measure your improvements, measure your sort of ranking.
Yes.
Be prepared to sort of, it's a long-term project. Don't expect to click your fingers and then suddenly you're top of the rankings, because and thinking about the firms that are currently top of the rankings, usually that's been the result of years, it's been decades of work in terms of PPC. It's a regular investment, so they won't necessarily be knocked off the top of their pedestal that easily. It's something that takes work and something that takes long-term investment to be consistently ranking high on Google.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those sites, those firms might have hundreds of pages on their site, all relating to various different types of services and things that they've done over the years. So yes, it's like I said, so it's the long game you've got to play. Okay, so thank you for tuning in to this episode of QS Waves. We hope you found the insights helpful for your marketing efforts. Don't forget to visit us at www.growwithqs.com for more resources and information on how we can help your firm grow. If you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to reach out to us via our email address, which is marketing@qualitysolicitors.com. It's bye from me.
And it's bye from me. Thank you.